And welcome back, or welcome to the channel for the first time. Today we're going to be doing the Songs of Six. You may pronounce the SYX differently than I do. Sorry if you think I'm not pronouncing it correctly. It is what I'm going to reliably pronounce. I think the other pronunciations of it, I'm not as reliable as speaking. If you notice any audio issues, this is the first time I have streamed this game, so feel free to let me know if the audio is off. I hope everyone enjoys the upcoming run. If this is your first time on the channel, I am streaming this live to Twitch under the username willcall, and uploading the local recording to YouTube under the username willcall100. So Twitch obviously gets whatever is able to be streamed live in 1080p, 60 frames per second, assuming the local internet will support that. Whereas YouTube is getting the local recording, which should be guaranteed to be 60 frames per second and 1080p. Not really going to mess too much with the settings here. I think this is the default settings, as far as the base settings here. So let's go in here. We're going to hit play. I have played the game before. We're not going to continue one of the older ones, partially because most of them are probably on older patches. We're going to do a random game here on normal settings, basically. I am planning on playing as the Lizardmen, also known as the Averni. Amevia. Let's see if I can even pronounce my nation's race correctly. We're not playing the humans because the humans are humans, and too easy to pronounce. The Dorians, Cretonians. Yeah, I probably picked the one that I least like to just actually pronounce. But we're gonna play as our lovely lizardmen here. The Amevias love water and thrive when living surrounded by rivers and canals. They believe that their true home is in the mythical depths, a place they are unable to reach in life as they are not fully aquatic. Since other species do not feel the same pull to depths, the Amevias regard them as soulless land life. Their size and natural armor makes them formidable soldiers despite their apathy towards violence. They will fight against oppression and are not submissive. Their lust for eggs make them masters of globidin, ranching, and their aquatic nature makes them excellent fishermen. They have an insatiable desire for fish and eggs, which they like to eat with vegetables. So the food stuff that these people are going to want is fish, eggs, and vegetables. They got a fairly low appetite, so we'll actually get fairly far on high-quality food like fish and eggs that are otherwise a bit prohibitive to make in early game. Good all-around, hardy fighters, religiously flexible. We must live close to fresh water, dislike other species, or poor farmers and slow breeders. Kratchen ruled by Bob. Let's replace the ruler name with the channel name. So we are willcall, or yeah, we'll do willcall. Willcall is the username on Twitch. Willcall100 is the username on YouTube. I'm not going to mess around too much with the banner here. And then a random map type. So if you want to know want to regenerate this map, use the seed, obviously. We're going to be playing in the southern latitude, but we'll leave the map sort of neutral statement here. And that's because our people, our lizardmen here, like sort of tropical climates, if we can find one with a bunch of water and ideally trees. I'd like deep water, trees, and a river if I can get it. That might be hard to ask for. Climate warm, so that's the sort of climate we're looking for. We've got a freshwater river, forest, open land, and I think we got a little bit of lake there. Oh, and it's a freshwater lake to add to it. Okay. That's probably good. We should be expecting to be finding a bunch of clay, but otherwise not very many other mineable resources. So we're going to have to focus on cotton farms, globidin pastures, opiate farms, fishing, presumably. Not necessarily a great climate for a bunch of other stuff. The other things I've frequently done, although these guys particularly like warm climates, so we could do temperate as well. But yeah, I think down there is going to be a good place to go. I was hoping for a warm delta. Actually, that might work. Yeah, that's sort of a river coming in there into a delta. That might work reasonably well. Zoom in a bit. So we got decent amount of forests, decent amount of open land, water, and reasonably high moisture, which our people want in a warm climate. Let's go ahead and pick this spot. Right now it's generating the sort of world map. We can do a couple of rerolls on the location map to get a more viable starting area here. Although, from a resource standpoint, we're most likely going to see a bunch of clay and be a bit hampered on the other stuff. Which, because I'm planning on doing mostly blizzards, is probably going to be fine. Okay, this is where we're going to go, and we can see how the rest of the terrain around is broken up. I'm not skilled enough to know how this balance works with all the other regions, so we're not going to worry too much about it. We're just going to pop into our town here. And we're gonna learn by failing, let's say. The plan with this run is we are going to continue to play this until I am done generating the tutorials that I'm working on for Shadow Empire. At least the next tutorial. So this will probably be a fairly long run. If something goes wrong and we lose the run, we'll just reset and start another run. So not too worried about picking a terrible spot. So as much as I was assuming this was a river, apparently this river does not touch the lake. So yeah, we got decent forest here. There's no mountains, so we wouldn't want to do Dadurn on this map, but that's probably fine. You can see there are some. Oh, that's ore. Okay, so that's ore. The clay is only out on that island. I might re-roll. Oh no, we got clay down here. May want to deploy reasonably close to where the clay is. And decide where we want to go. So we got war beasts, sort of the pig-like animals. So nothing here that's gonna try to munch us. That looks fine. Okay. We got more clay on the island. So yeah, mostly some fairly good deposits of clay. I might actually go over here somewhere. And then we'll have to work down towards the clay when we want clay. Got sand, so that's going to be bad for farming. So that's actually probably a good place to put the settlement on. At least I think it is. Yeah, so you've got no moisture, but that's fine. We'll basically be expanding into the moisture area. I got alluvium, which will be good for tree farming. And we do have some decent farming over here. Okay. It specifically does not want. Oh, there's like a tree or something there blocking us to be specifically on that spot. Fair enough. What's the rotate key again? Oh, I think this may be one of the buildings I'm not allowed to rotate. We'll plop here. So, I don't have any of the titles enabled at the moment, so we're starting off with a basic 10 Lizardmen city here. So we got our 10 Lizardmen. Amevian, the Amevians. So we got our 10 Amevian odd jobbers. Sort of a little bit of grain that I'm mostly going to ignore. We start with some livestock, some rations, some stone, and some wood. Early on, I'm going to want to get a lay of the land. Probably try to get some pastures going so we can generate more livestock, and otherwise mostly work on fishing and housing people. Okay, so first thing to do. Is there a overview I can look at? I want to see what is the fertility, for example. Overlays, that's what I'm looking for. Soil. Okay, so this is our best growing land over here. This is the warm climate, so there's not necessarily going to be a lot of very good growing land. We obviously set ourselves up intentionally on the worst bit of growing land because we didn't necessarily want to be growing there. Actually, up and to the right, which is where I was thinking of doing a lot of building, is apparently pretty good growing land as well. Moisture. So yeah, we're on one of the drier spots. Although this is a fairly moist area, so our people who like moisture will probably be fine. Foundations. We're on a reasonable foundation spot, although this is something that affects maintenance, so we probably actually want to stay mostly close to the water, which is probably fine for us. Yeah, so till is apparently reasonably for farming, and then we got alluvium. Oh, we got a little bit of ore deposit there. Okay. Oh, that was... Okay, I can right-click on that, that's fine. It's in a mode yet. Okay. Screenshot. Again, I haven't really played this game very much, especially not in this current patch. Let's put the thing away. Okay, so construction-wise, we're going to want to get a quick pasture built. Eventually, we're going to want to swap it to Globadine. The main reason I'm doing this first pasture so is we can get some income of livestock. So when we do research Globadine, we can go ahead and Globadine, you can see, make eggs, which our people do want. Got reasonable hydration here, so it just comes down to sort of fertility. I think we're going to use this area up here as our initial pasture area. Do something like that. I'm going to expand this so it's a 2-worker space. We'll probably only have 1 worker work it, but we'll expand it to 2-worker space. There we go. And then we need a gate. Be able to get in and out. And then a hut for the animals to live in. There we go. So that's going to be our initial pasture, and then we'll also get an initial fishery going. The fishery I want to be fairly big, because we want it to have something like 6 workers working in it. So yeah, something like that. It's going to need a little bit of storage. Special storage and some auxiliary buildings. Plus minus. There. EQ for expand contract. And then we can save some of the land area. There's obviously the fishermen. Other than for the buildings that we just put in there, the fishermen just need the water for access. Oops. Apparently need that space for the storage for the be there. We're just going to do the minimum size storage. Okay, that should work. Let's minimize the futzing with it. So that's only going to be another 86 wood. So we may need a little more wood to get both those done. But let's get both of those done. We'll let some time pass while that happens. let's also designate a little bit of wood, because it looks like I'm not going to quite have enough wood to finish either of these. I need about 100 wood. Just trying to remember... Yeah, I have not played this very much, so I'm kind of futzing around to find all things. So that should be enough wood. Let's speed time up, get these guys building these stuff. Okay, not quite enough wood to get the pasture complete. Barely nothing delivered to the fishery construction. Although both now have been cleared, so it's just a process of getting this stuff delivered. And chopped and stuff. The next thing we're going to work on, after these are built, is I'm going to build a storage room to store some of our stuff, and then we'll build up sort of the basic amenities so we can get some more Averni moving in. I'm going to call them Averni. I think they're Amevia? I might just stop. I might just start calling them lizardmen because I know they are lizard-like. Okay, so enough wood was delivered to the antelope pasture here that we can get the antelope pasture made. Still another 20 to be delivered to the fish construction site. Fishery construction. And they are, of course, eating the rations. The grain and stuff don't necessarily keep very well when they're not in the storehouse. Okay, so with that, I'm going to slow the speed down a little bit. I'm going to set, even though this is going to want apparently 3 workers, we're going to set the workers to 1. They're going to bring 5 animals in here. Surprised this actually takes 5 animals. Apparently, maybe this is not very great land for tending. But really, this is just so we have a supply of animals for later. Yeah, that doesn't change the amount of animals delivered. Okay, so we've got 1 animal here. It's going to take time for it to grow into an adult. That's fine. We're going to be waiting for wood to be delivered to the fishery. The fishery is going to be our main source of food. I think there's probably enough wood chopped. I might actually remove some of the designation here to get them focusing on the more important jobs. That's not the button I'm looking for. Clear jobs, suspend jobs. Left shift, okay. Whoops. Accidentally deleted the fishing site. That's not what I wanted. Fix that. Okay. Again, we want storage re-put back in. Enough auxiliaries. What's up? Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, that's about the same size it was before. That should re-encourage them to get back to working it. It shouldn't be that. Oh, it's still mostly cleared from before, yeah. Slightly different shape, so have to be re-cleared a little bit. And then if I can be a little more careful, I can cancel a few more jobs here. Again, to sort of encourage them to work on the construction project rather than chopping trees. it's a little bit hard to track how many resources we have stockpiled before having a stockpile, because they're just sort of sitting on the ground. And yeah, definitely queued up too much wood chopping. Okay, they've cleared it. They've delivered the lumber. They're constructing it. Once it's done, we'll build the storehouse and then move on to some amenities. Okay, so there we go. So we've got our first fishery done. It's going to employ 6 of our 10 people, making about 1.75 fish per person, which is enough to probably feed about 3 of them every day per person. Now the next thing we're going to want is we want a storehouse to store the products of these 2. Logistics warehouse. I'll do something like that. I want a pillar in the middle. Give it a quick pillar. And something like that for the shape of the warehouse. Obviously, we need to put in a couple doors so they can get in and out. We'll give them a door straight into the fishing area. And to the west to get to the lumber. Yeah, something like that. No complaints about reducing insulation too much, so that should be fine. It's going to cost 47 lumber to build, which I think we have sitting from the forest that we deforested a bit. Let's get them to building this quickly. Anyway, they are definitely making fish, which is going to be more than enough to adequately feed these people. And then if they want something besides fish, we technically have rations down here, which is the less perishable stuff. We also have less workers effectively constructing at this point, because we've got one working on the pasture to keep the animals alive. Make sure they have ways to cool down. That's called the river. Thanks. And we've got 6 working the fishery, so now that we've got 6 working the fishery, we can see we're making about 10.5 fish per day. The Averni eat less than normal, although I think most people on the internet have been saying the normal food consumption of pop in this game is like half a unit of food a day. So our 10 people only eat like 5 foods. Adequately generating food here, just from the fishery. And then the antelope here, pasture, is mainly here specifically so that we can retain some livestock, because goods do decay in this game, particularly if they're outside. But like the decay rate on the livestock is like half of it disappears a year, or half of it outside a year, 25% of it is stored, right? So by making a pasture and sort of raising that animals, even if I don't really care about the output, which I really don't, you know, that keeps me having a supply of animals that I can transition to other pastures later. is the logic with that. Even though for the longest period of time, I think we're going to go ahead and just basically do fishing for our Averni. There is a complex web of things that our people do like. In particular, can I find where our people care about resource of food-wise? Properties is what I'm thinking of. Properties. No, this is showing me what they're good and bad at. I don't remember how I can check in game. While we're waiting for them to build stuff, this is a good time to be looking. Yeah, so we can see they prefer vegetables, fish, and is it meat? No, it's eggs. Vegetables, eggs, and fish, right? So we can meet one of the three preferences purely by providing fish, and we already shown they can more than feed. Like if half the people are working on fish, we make 2 days worth of food every day, with just 6 of them working here. So we're definitely not concerned about food, although we are going to want to get more people in here soon. And then we'll want to expand food, and then we have, again, as we do that, we'll get more and more people available to do other tasks. The fishery can also be improved. We got the default level here. The upgrade costs things we don't have right now. Also requires technology we don't have. And this would add another +1 base to it. Our species has a 25% bonus to fishing, which is why we're getting the 1.75 instead of 1.5, which I think is the base. Or are we getting a bonus from... might be getting a bonus from Deep Sea. Oh, actually, yeah, it appears to be 0.4 here instead of 0.1. So it's 1 plus, or 1 times 1.25 times like 1.4 or something like that. Okay, so our warehouse here is done. We're going to want to set it to acquire some resources, so that we know what we have. I'll tell it to get bread, so we can have an idea if we actually have bread. We don't have any right now. We're going to acquire fish. I'm going to give it 4 boxes worth of fish capacity to store for the moment. I want to know how much wood we have, or if we've got enough full crate. I'm not going to put more than 1 crate in here, but it's going to put 1 crate. If this thing's full, it's full. We want to know if we have surplus livestock, so we're gonna put a crate of livestock in, a crate of stone in. We want to know about vegetables and eggs, even though we're not making them. We are making meat. At some point, we'll want to care about leather, so I'll put a crate of leather in there. And we got 39 crates in here, so we've got plenty of space. We'll put some rations in here so we can see how many of our rations are left. We'll put grain in here. What else do I have in the base stockpile down here? Stone, rations, grain, livestock. Okay. So we got another 19 crates of storage in here. I don't need to assign them all right now. At some point we'll be wanting some furniture, so we'll put a little bit of furniture in there. Partially also because I know the upgrade on that, so we're going to require furniture. Same thing with fabric. I think that's what it represents, making boats with the fabric and the furniture. I'll use another 13 crates. This design for a warehouse is not a standardized warehouse. I saw its space. I decided this is where the warehouse is going and made a warehouse that fills the space. So it's bigger than I probably need right now. We'll take you update. We'll leave the last 19 spaces open for the moment. And I'm going to assign that this warehouse have a delivery man to acquire and deliver stuff. That will drop us down to 2 workers to do our construction. Although I'm getting pretty close to where I feel we are done with our construction before we bring more guys in. I think the next thing we want to build is some houses. We will go the really big ones, just to start here. I think I'm going to put it down here on the dry area down here. And for the moment, we're going to sort of overlap them manually, but that'll be the first house. So we'll get that house down. We're going to want a hearth if it gets cold. We'll get a mass grave in case people do end up dying. It doesn't need to be a particularly big grave. Hearth and a well. Okay, and we'll get those building. We have the stone, I believe, stone and the wood to build all these, so it's just a process of having the two workers quickly hewn these out, and then we'll probably set ourselves to expand a bit, let some people in. And of course, when we get more people in, we'll be wanting more food, so we'll expand. Well, I say expand. We'll be building an additional fishery, so we don't have to take the previous one offline while we're building the next one. But we'll build more fishery. We'll build probably more amenities, right? We basically got the basic amenities right at this point, which is the hearth and the well. So they got a place to get water that isn't the river. They got a place to be warm during the winter. Although we are in a warm climate, so the hearth probably is not very needed. If I were to be suspecting. Now, we do slightly suffer the fact that we're sticking to mud walls here because our people like mud walls. At least until we get the very fancy endgame construction material. So we're not paying very much to build stuff, but it takes extra long to build it for the mudline stuff. So yeah, we got enough lumber harvested that the one crate is full. And then working on these amenities. The grave has been done for a bit. There's the well, which no one works at the well, but people obviously go there to do stuff. And no one works at the hearth either, although people do go there to do stuff. And then we're quickly building the house. So with the house built... Oh, it's not quite built. We'll go until at least it's built. I think we'll be ready to bring in more people. And also, I'm going to put more wood storage in here. Again, because we've got so many available crates for the moment. And we've got a delivery man whose job will be to fill that up. Okay, so our house is built. So our 10 people have someplace to live. Exactly 10 places to live for 10 people. So it's now time to allow more people to come in. I can go ahead and pre-authorize up to a particular number, I believe. Oh, yeah, the bottom was the automatic. So we'll go ahead and set the bottom one to 40. We'll immediately authorize all 4 waiting people to come in. I'm immediately going to go ahead and expand our housing up to 40, and then we'll work on the food production. But yeah, right now we've set it up so that they automatically immigrate. We're expecting about 4.64 apparently a day, so we should see our population slowly grow. We will want to expand again the fishing as soon as we get the housing up here. Or at least I'm going to want to expand the housing after I get the fishing as soon as I get the housing done here. You may have a different strategy. You may do a different food resource, for example. Okay. Fishing has been, the housing has been expanded, so next will be an expansion of fishing. I'm going to put another 18 fisher jobs in. And from the number of jobs, it's mostly sea area, coast area, or area. Not necessarily land that I need here, which is why you might see me sort of ignoring the land, running on the coast here. I do need a little bit. Oh, okay, we hit max dimensions there. 9 for this first one. It's not going to be too much of a problem. I was thinking of doing 18, but apparently our area is fairly shallow on this bit of the map. Oops. Looking for the map nodes I'm not trying to use. Somewhat accidentally. Yeah, that should be the right size. So we'll set you up. That's adequate efficiency. It's got pretty good deep sea. Increases worker capacity. Enough for 9. Let's go ahead and set that to build. We've got enough wood that it's just a matter of time for them. Okay, so tab. So this is the main map. Tab goes to overview of stockpiles, economy and trade. How many attracting tourists. In here we've got the research. Right now we're not generating either innovation or knowledge. Raiders. Tech route right now is surprise, okay. The titles, obviously I haven't unlocked any of the titles on this current patch. And then and this here is what we've got on the map. So we're down here. Apparently we can see some of our neighbors, probably because it's open terrain that way. Fair enough. Oh, and there's an army of neutrals right outside our door. Great job, people. Yeah, we know where the lizard. We know there's lizards there. And Gamarthi. It's probably pronouncing that right. Or probably pronouncing that wrong. Let's get back into the town. Let's get that fishery going. Is mostly clearing the area, and then obviously delivering enough lumber, which we should have. In fact, the clearing here is providing some lumber as well. And then we'll probably go ahead and do another 9 out the other direction. And it's not very deep out in this river. The open ocean on this side is much deeper. Yeah, we're mostly going to try to subsist off of fish for quite a while. So one of our faction, or one of our race's preferred food types, so... And in our case, something fairly easy for us to make. We're not necessarily great farmers, and we don't yet have the tech to do eggs the way we want to. Okay, so there's that fishing dock done. So I'll take 9 of our construction workers away. Control left click to build another. There we go. Oh, yeah, and there's a maximum length we can do. Okay, we'll do another 8. I think that's a good enough start. Once again, we start with storage. Don't need a particularly big storage. Auxiliaries. Big enough at least for the zone. That should work. Okay. And we'll get that building. And then we'll probably swap over to building some amenities to encourage more people to move in. Keep the loyalty and happiness up. Yeah, food days is going down, partially because we only just set the new dock up, and population is growing pretty quickly. One thing with running fish like we are is we're not going to have a lot of food days necessarily. We'll have pretty stable food supply, so the food days shouldn't fluctuate very much. But we're not going to necessarily be floating a lot of food per se at any given time. People are only, in an ideal way, are only probably out producing their own food consumption by like 3 days. Oh no, they feed themselves and they feed like 2 other people, and then we're running like a 60% mix right now. So you can do the math and figure out how many surplus days that's going to be. Okay, so we got our next fishery made. So that's providing 14 fish. So 14, 24 and a half. Okay, so that's about 40 fish. So that means every day we, in theory, generate enough fish for the 40 that I'm growing to be fed twice over. So that should generate a stockpile. We're not in a rush to increase the food production more than that. Let's get someone to serve to do announcements. Next to the well and the hearth. I think the lavatory is going to require some furniture, which you don't have yet. Can go ahead and get a food stall going, which I think we will. trying to decide how I want to do this. In which case we'd want to make the zone a little bit wider. Okay. An awkward moment where you can't get it to add up to a even number of people, or even full fraction of person. Okay. Oh, that works reasonable. We'll do that. But yeah, that's enough to, in theory, support 64 people. We've only got up to 40 here. It's going to take one worker to run that. Should be fine. That's food stall. We might arguably have enough stuff if we run one of the wooden-based ones. 8% Crantor. Build a temple. Not going to worry about that right now. Yep, let's get that stuff building. I don't think about potentially doing more housing or something, or some roads. Oh, what I should do is I'll probably get a janitor going. To maintain what we've been building. Yep, we'll let that store food, serve to people. Then we got the town crier providing more happiness in that way. So I think it is time to get another housing district up. At least another group of houses up. So I could also reevaluate the effectiveness of the hearth. I had 6 spots. Okay, so these don't really have a service, unlike the food stall and the speaker, which tells you roughly how many they should be able to serve. Some roads in here. People do prefer traveling on roads when possible, although the dirt roads aren't particularly noteworthy from a look standpoint. Point of view of the people caring about them. Okay, get those roads in, and then I'll build another 40 houses and start attracting more people to do more fishing. Yep, 40 people right now are sitting at about an average of 8 days of food. Probably because fish doesn't necessarily store very well, right? Even stored, half of it disappears every year. Although the year is like 16 days, right? So... yeah, so our 40 people are eating about 15 a day, apparently, for estimation here. 3 is decaying about per day. We're making about 40. So food stockpiles should be going up. That is to be interpreted correctly. Well, the rations are probably... Well, the rations don't decay super quick, I suppose. Okay, the road is done. Let's go ahead and get the next 4 houses. What I can do... yeah, I can do that as an option. Okay. Is there a way I can do... quick block... Okay, if I want what I want, I can only do 1 row. Okay. There we go. Get them building that. This time we're building the houses before the people arrive, so they have a place to live. Oh, and I should get a janitor. Forgot about the janitor. Oh, maybe I don't need it quite so big. Make it a bit smaller than that. Here we go. Yeah, they'll employ 10 janitors, or could employ up to 10 janitors. We'll probably just put the, turn it down to like 1 for every 20 people at the moment. We'll employ like 2. Fulfillment, okay. It's all these different things that make them happy or unhappy. They do appreciate roads over nothing. Dirt roads over nothing, but they're not going to get a lot of preference from that. Okay, they do want torches, so it might make sense to get some torches going. I think that's reasonably cheap to build. And then, like, if we had eggs in storage, which we don't have, they do appreciate the fish in storage. Services, food stall, well, speaker, and hearth provided. Well, so they can skinny dip. Keeping them happy. That front. Maybe like they're mostly getting their food preference. And then fulfillment from population is going to be pretty static, unless we bring in a different race or increase the native ratio. Which reminds me, you are defaulting 2. You technically can employ up to 10. But you're guessing based on the workload that even though you could go up to 10, you really only need like 2 though. Okay. Is reasonable. I agree with that assessment. So we got the gender down. We got houses for another 40 people. I think that may be what we go for next, is another 40 people. Yeah, let's up this number to 80. We'll authorize the 12 that are waiting to come in. Then we have... What do I have in fishing industry? We've got about 23. I want to go for like another 23-ish people in fish. So we'll move on to next, aquaculture, fishery. And again, this is a river, so we're not getting particularly large fisheries per coastline here. The ocean is usually a little bit deeper. Okay, the 7 there. Okay, that doesn't seem too bad. Another 7 there. Let the builders build that. New level has been bestowed upon your name, Emir. So this unlocks us the ability to do import-export depots. So we can start engaging in some trade. We may, in fact, think about doing that soon. Clearing, delivering wood. We got plenty of wood, so getting the materials where it's not going to be that hard. Neighbor is giving us some eggs. And some denarii. Esteemed colleague. Glorious nation of Novastar. Perhaps you've heard of me. Here's some free stuff for you. Hope we can be friends one day. Okay. So just accepted that. Let's put some more storage in for eggs. Proverbial 1 hammer hit left to do to get the place built. There we go. That's going to play 7 fishermen. You're going to want more fishermen. We'll go more off this end next. So we'll get some small little storage over here. And then we need, again, need enough auxiliaries to keep the place working at full efficiency. That should do. We'll get them building that. Looks like we're getting the transition into winter of year 2 soon. There we go, so we got more fishermen. Who's working what jobs? I think it's an easy way to track the workers. 3, 15, 23, 30... 37 right now. Which is probably a good amount for the 62 that we have, but I think we want a little bit more because I'm going to go up to full 80 here. Might actually put out a road to these little islands here in the middle first. So let's... See them build out that road. That way we can eventually do fishing on those islands as well. Yeah, everything right now we've got is within the... Oh, actually, generators don't quite reach to the end of that fishery. Probably not too much of an issue. They do reach the end of that one. Suppose we are getting close to the end of the map here, so let's run a fishery that runs all the way up to the end of the map area. Got the 4 fishermen. Not particularly large, but that's fine. And yeah, these islands, as you can see, they don't have a lot of shallow water around them, so they're not going to be particularly big fisheries out here. If we do fish out here. But... we're trending up in food. Again, you could probably do the math and figure out where our trend site should be. Although part of that is obviously we got eggs on hand. The eggs do keep better than the fish, so and we are letting our people eat it. So they're eating the eggs, which is lowering the amount of fish we can stockpile to go up. Plus, we're building more fisheries, obviously. Okay, that fishery is done. New level is bestowed upon your name. We got up to 75, so we now do the laboratory. We also have some innovation that we can spend. So innovation is used for various things. Same with knowledge. You can tell whether it spends innovation or knowledge if the number is on the left or the right side at the bottom of the year. Or if it's both, it spends both, right? So we can do things like we get refined tastes to upgrade the food stall, get the market. We could actually spend to pick up the burial here, because we've got base 20 innovation just from reaching that title level. We can get the stage for more entertainment. We can get fancier roads, sculptures, pillars, swimming pools. Soldiering we'll probably want at some point. Some of the industrial crops like herbs, mushrooms, poppies. Oh, we could even go ahead and say, hey, we want to be better at fishing. So right now, if we were to do this, we'd spend 2 points of innovation. This is a minimum requirement of having 30 employees in the fishing camps, and it would provide effectively 5.1 more workers worth of fish from the improvements in the fishing. Not by doing very much, it's only adding a 0.13 per worker. Although once you multiply that across the number of workers, that adds up. We currently have 41 workers on that. Or, as I said earlier, we're probably going to do Globadine later in the run for eggs. Could unlock the Globadine, start getting those pastures going. Makeshift weapons, crude crafting tools. What I might do is I might just keep going with what we're doing and leave this open to you, the viewer. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you've got a suggestion for what we should unlock first. I'm thinking at least we're probably going to do some on the civics, right? So we might need to do like burial entertainment. If there's a thing that you want to see us go into next, like improving the fishing, or go into Globadine, or makeshift weapons, so go into early military, feel free to let me know in the comments. Obviously, you need to like respond within 24 to 48 hours of this episode going live, otherwise it won't be posted before I have to make that decision. But with that note, this is probably where we need to bring this part to an end. So if you're watching on YouTube, there will be another part up tomorrow. I'm going to stream at least one more part. I might actually be a bit greedy and do 3 parts tonight. And yeah, we'll hold off on that decision for a little bit, just because we can build up the town. And right now we've got 20 points in inspiration, so maybe think about it less if you're making a recommendation on what I should spend that 20 on. Because, to be fair, that 20 is probably going to get spent on, like, proper burial, entertainment. Yeah, probably just proper burial and entertainment. And we'll keep the other 5 around. But mostly amenities is what's going to the first couple are going to get spent on. But at some point we're going to build the laboratory. Is it laboratory? Yeah, laboratory. We're going to build the laboratory, which is going to provide us with a bunch more. And at that point, we'll be needing suggestions on what industry to be focusing on. Should we be focusing on pastures, or expanding or improving the fish efficiency, or should we be focusing on sort of war? So if you're watching that on YouTube or watching that on Twitch and you've got a suggestion, feel free to let me know. We'll try to make that decision about 2 hours from now in the game, I'm thinking. So if you're watching YouTube, we'll have a part up tomorrow. We'll probably have a part up the day after tomorrow, and then the day after that is when, obviously, you'll need to have responded to, for me to make decisions, if I'm thinking my days out right. Hope everyone has been enjoying. If you're watching on Twitch, feel free to hang around. I'm going to take a short break, get up, stretch the legs, sip some tea, and then we'll be back to continuing the game. So until the next part, I'm going to wish you all the best of luck and a good time. Catch you all in the next part, and bye for now.